now that I am really feeding and nurturing the creative me, she's growing stronger and she's taking up more space inside. And I haven't really made room for her in my life. So, today's episode is feeling like accountability. not even gonna hold you. It's feeling like accountability. Why? Because I'm sitting here 2 days before I promised myself I'd be releasing a new episode into the internet universe. And I want to say that I'm not sitting here 2 days before because I'm unprepared. That's not what it is. Because I'm probably overprepared, if I'm being honest. I've spent this entire month consuming and practicing and studying and exploring and learning about different mediums of art and different types of storytelling and different approaches to expression. And like, I've just been in it, right? And because I've been in it, it crept up on me. I was like, oh, it's time. And so before we jump into sort of this month and what I've learned, I kind of want to go back a little bit because something happened right before I sat down to record this. And that is, I made a promise to myself that I would release episodes on the 22nd of every month. 22 has a very significant meaning to me in this season of my life. So it felt like the right number. Because I had been in the trenches of study and it snuck up on me, I almost started to say to myself, well, you said that you wanted to produce something of value, and if you rush it, it's not going to be valuable. And I started to hear that same sort of narrative that pushed me away from the bi-weekly production to the monthly. And to be fair, as I sat and evaluated that, thinking of everything that I have going on in my life, monthly felt more fair to me, both in the fact that I needed to give myself grace, and in the fact that it's a more accurate reflection of where I am, like in terms of skills, like my capacity to produce based on the skills that I have bi-weekly is a lot, even without all the other stuff I have going on. So in evaluating that, I thought a monthly episode felt more feasible and more fair, still pushing me outside of my comfort zone, still holding me accountable to creating and producing and sharing something. But in a way that didn't feel like I was setting myself up for failure, right? So once a month episodes is what I decided. So as I'm coming up on that, and today's 2 days before that, and I'm like, oh my God, I felt that story of, you want to produce value, don't rush it. If you don't feel ready, give yourself more time. And as it was coming up this time, I was like, this doesn't feel true for me. This doesn't feel true. It felt true when I said it last time, so I gave myself grace. It's coming up this time and it's feeling more like an excuse. The difference. Grace finds a way forward. An excuse finds a way out. And this felt like me trying to find a way out of having to sit myself down and create this. And I want to acknowledge that that was likely my anxiety and a bunch of other things kicking up, because that stuff tends to be a little bit more challenging for me to manage when I'm overwhelmed with just life stuff, which I currently am at the moment. In a good way, in the best way possible. I want to also name that. One thing I've been saying a lot, because when people ask me, how are you? And they say, how are you doing? I genuinely check in with myself and try to answer as honestly as possible without being just overwhelmingly like dumping on somebody, right? And so recently what I have found myself saying over and over again, because it continues to feel true, is that I am overwhelmed because I am being stretched, and I have to be stretched to receive the things that I'm working and praying for. I don't currently have the capacity to hold the bigness of the vision that I have. And so I know this stretching is expanding my capacity to hold more so that I can really walk out the vision that I have. So I know that that's what's happening. It is incredibly uncomfortable, and I'm super grateful for the awareness that this is just a necessary step on my journey. Part of the reason why I have that awareness is because I've been here before. I've done this before, right? Like that keeps coming up. I keep saying nothing is for nothing. All this wisdom from my past, having done this before, is flooding back to me in ways that is allowing me to rapidly move through this process way faster than I have in past seasons of my life when I've had to do this, because I know the right questions to ask, and I'm asking those questions, and those answers are coming, and I'm moving, and it's happening. And so part of the reason why it's uncomfortable is because it's happening so rapidly right now too. So I recognize all this, and that's really my favorite thing about being on this journey is that I have those moments where, oh, I can see God's hand. Like I can see it. I can feel it. I'm clear that that's exactly what this is. And it is incredibly uncomfortable. And I hate it. And I want it to go away. But it's necessary. So I heard myself saying that story. And I was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. This time, that story didn't feel true. It felt safe. And while I appreciate safety, it's not what I need in this season. I need to be uncomfortable. And part of that is because I understand why I'm uncomfortable. This is the value of the self-reflection practice that I have, is that I know when to call my own bluff. I know when to call bullshit on myself, right? Like I know that it's like, okay, girl, this is let's be for real. So I'm here. What did I really want to talk about? That was just like the behind the scenes, what's coming up for me. But what I really wanted to talk about today is the question that I asked myself that led me on the journey to consume and create and study and practice so much this month. And the question that I asked myself is, what is my intention? What's my intention? And part of me going on study and practice is because I believe that action breeds clarity, right? Like I could sit here and think all day about my intention, but I feel like getting in the practice of creating and studying other creators and exploring different mediums of creativity, that for me is how I'm going to get clear about my intention. What are the stories I want to tell and all of that? What are the medium I want to use? Right now, it's been coming up a lot as writing, but I also feel really drawn to visual storytelling. Like I've been writing a lot of stories that I can see happening as, you know, a TV series or a movie or a short film. Like I've been seeing that as well. So anyway, my point is I have been spending a lot of time studying this month. So I'm going to start weaving that in. But the lesson that I'm getting is I need to make room. So what do I mean by that? I think about myself as like a panel, right? Like there's many joys inside of me. There's, little girl joy, of course, academic joy and athlete joy and therapist joy. There's all these versions of me. And now that I am really feeding and nurturing the creative me, she's growing stronger and she's taking up more space inside. And I haven't really made room for her in my life, which is why 2 days before I promised myself I'd be releasing a new episode, I'm sitting here being like, oh, We here. It's now. Right? So I'm like, I need to make room for her. Now I'm putting on my therapist hat. I want to show you an exercise that I do with my clients that was called to my remembrance when I needed to do it with myself. Okay. And so these particular buckets or domains of your life are the things that are already taking up room, right? Taking up your time. They require your energy and attention. What I like to do after I go through all the different buckets is I also like to sit down and say, okay, what would I ideally be investing in each of these? What does it look like for me to be present in these areas of my life in a way that is satisfactory? And I go, what's the bare minimum? Not because my intention is to only meet the bare minimum, but because that helps me know, okay, you can't afford to drop below this before you start to feel out of whack, right? Because part of living in alignment with my values is about a sense of integrity for me, feeling like, my life is a reflection of the things that matter most to me and that I'm making room in my life to really be present with those things in a way that feels meaningful. And so I'm not saying like, what's the bare minimum I'm going to show up for my family or whatever. I'm saying, what is the bare minimum that I need in order to feel like my life is aligned and I am fulfilled? And so I go through each of the buckets and I define what that is for me. And what I mean by making room is there is a creative part of me that could survive in a past season of my life off of an hour or two per week. Now, mm-mm. As I said, I've been feeding and nurturing her. So she's growing and her appetite is growing and she needs more. And I'm realizing that I have not actively made room for her, meaning she needs more of my attention. She needs more time. And I haven't actively made room for her and I haven't structured her life yet. She's just been kind of existing as like a blob, right? And I've acknowledged her, she's there, um, and I'm welcoming her and I'm accepting her. But now it's time to kind of like raise her. Like, I guess if I were to, this is interesting. Okay, let's go with it. I guess if I were to think about this, it's like she was birthed and really easy to care for the most part, right? Like, just like easy baby. Feed her every now and again, check on her, she's good. And she's growing up. And as I said, her appetite is growing, but also, she can walk and talk and, she's getting older, more mature. And she now needs a little bit more hands-on guidance because her curiosity, she wants to roam this way and that. And when babies first start walking, they're like, they want to get up and grab everything. And they're just curious because now I can stand up and I can see above the table and I couldn't see that before. Now I want to know what that is. Right. And so all of these things are starting to happen. And I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. I'm trying to wrangle her. And, just really make room for her growth, right? Like, as much as I want to wrangle her and give her structure, I also want to create space for her to fully express and be who she is, right? So there's a little bit of both, and I'm finding my rhythm in that. And so looking at those buckets and defining what's the bare minimum that I need to have in each of those, and now adding that creative bucket to the list and actively saying, okay, what do I need to give her daily, weekly, monthly to feel fulfilled? Because as the creative part of me is demanding more space, if I don't give it, she feels unsatisfied. And then I, as a person, feel unbalanced, which is again why I started this episode. Despite the vision that I have for all the things I wanted to do, it was like the creative part of me was like, keep playing with me, right? Put it out. And I was like, you right. So it's like that, as that part of me is like demanding more room, I'm now actively having to create more room. And it was literally me sitting down and saying, what are the domains of my life? How am I distributing the time that I have in a way that is fulfilling for me? And that is, looking at time with my family, looking at time dedicated to work, looking at time dedicated to just the adult stuff of life, right? Like taking care of, finances and making sure I'm getting back to folks and, all of that. My social life, making sure I stay connected to the people that are really holding me down and lifting me up in this season of my life. Just looking at the various domains and saying, okay, what do I need to just feel fulfilled? And I had to I am having to, I should say, actively redistribute what that looks like for me. And so that's going to be the work. In all the study and all the practice, as I got clear about my intention, now I have some projects, like some clear projects that I want to do. And it's going to require me to structure my time to actually move through the steps of creating that. Like my creative process, I feel, is starting to mature and become more complex. Like now, what I'm creating is starting to be more conceptual, right? It's starting to be more intentional because I ask myself, what's my intention? Being clear about your why. Like what drives you to do it, but also what is your purpose? What do you hope will happen as a result of you doing it? Right. And so it's a little bit of both when I'm asking myself the question of what's my intention. And sitting down and asking that and practicing and studying this month gave me some really clear visions for what I want to create. That's going to require more structure. And structure is going to require making room. As I mentioned, it is overwhelming me. It is stretching me. I am moving through this process much faster than I ever expected to or ever imagined I would. And also, I know that everything is as it should be. Yeah, just feeling grateful for the fact that nothing is for nothing. And everything I've been through has led me to this moment. And that anything that would try to tell me this is not the moment, aka the fear that tried to convince me to postpone this episode, anything that tries to tell me this is not the moment is a lie. To be reminded of that, to stand boldly on that, to actively integrate that truth and transmute it into something that is relevant beyond the moment I'm currently having. That's the intention, right? That's the intention. The intention is to capture what feels true and translate that into something that invites others to connect to the truth that is already within them. So I believe there's one universal set of truths, and that one universal set of truths is translated into a bunch of different languages or a bunch of different expressions, be they music or writing or scripture or paintings or sculptures or poems, whatever they are. And my intention with what I create is to be a vessel for those truths and then to translate them into a language that folks can understand by way of living my life.
The highest human act is to inspire.